Yeah.
No thing.
Okay. This is an interview with John Paul Keith, and I'm my wife Lauren with Professor Charles Hughes. And the date is December 1st, 2012, and this is for part of the Echoes of Memphis fellowship.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. We just start out sort of with the basics. Just state your full name and where you're from, and if you don't mind saying when you're from, when you were born.
Well, my name's John Paul Keith. I'm originally from Knoxville, Tennessee, but I've been living in Memphis for about 7 years, and I was born in 1975.
Okay, so I know that you grew up outside of Knoxville, right?
Yeah, out in the middle of nowhere.
Okay, so can you tell me a little bit about your childhood and what your parents were like and your family?
Well, my dad was a truck driver, and we had a real kind of old-fashioned East Tennessee sort of family life. It's a disappearing way of life, I think. But I grew up in a rural area, and so I think that I have a different perspective on things sometimes because of that. And my parents waited pretty late in life to have kids, so. I was the kid whose parents were older than the other kids' parents. My parents were just a little too old to be baby boomers. So I think that also contributed to me having a different perspective on popular culture than other people. I didn't hear boomer music till I was a teenager. It was just, it just wasn't played in the house. Like other people my age grew up on that. I didn't. I came to it later. I grew up hearing country music and gospel music.
Okay, cool. So you ended up in Nashville, right?
Uh-huh.
And you played with the Viceroys there. Can you tell me a little bit about your time in Nashville and why you chose to leave the group?
Well, the Viceroys were actually a Knoxville band.
Oh, okay.
And I would help start that band when I was 19. Mm-hmm. And I quit. It's like David Lee Roth says, rock bands are like dogs that chase cars. They make a lot of noise and they don't last long. But that's sort of, it's the same old story with most bands. We just different directions, different opinions of how it should be. So I took off, and then I went to Nashville, and I was there for about 5 years, I think.
Okay. And they're on Steve Earle's label, right?
They were at the time. They changed their name to the V-Roys when I left, and they signed with Steve Earle. He had a label called E Squared at the time, and they did a couple records for him.
Okay, cool. So then you eventually ended up spending some time in Birmingham, right, before you came to Memphis?
Yeah, I was in Birmingham for a couple of years.
Okay, so can you
jump in?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Just to go back to Nashville for a second. So when you went to Nashville, it's such a common story that people who go to Nashville kind of have to fit in to the Nashville thing if they want to,
Right.
make it in Nashville. And like now, it seems to be, that there are some other niches that are kind of blooming there. But for your experience, like, were you able to make the kind of music you wanted to make in Nashville, or were you sort of, did you find any tension because it's such a common story?
Well, it was kind of weird. I mean, I was trying to play rock music in Nashville, and there wasn't much of a scene for that then. I mean, there were guys doing it. There were actually a lot of guys doing it, but it wasn't. It didn't get much attention outside of Nashville. It really didn't get that much attention in Nashville at the time. But I mean, I had some luck there. I mean, I signed with Sire Records when I was living in Nashville. I had a band called the Nevers, and Sire was a big, big national major label. It was a big deal at the time, and so it wasn't like I got, kicked to the curb. I mean, I had some success there on some level, but the problem I had with Nashville is that even if you go there thinking I'm not going to be like these other people, I'm not going to be totally corporate and middle of the road, and I'm not going to compromise what I do. Even if you go in thinking that, because of the culture of the place, after a while, you still end up being like that, and I absolutely did that. So it wasn't that I couldn't do what I wanted to do, it's that I drifted into doing what I never would have done before, you know, and writing the kind of stuff that I would never have done. You know, it's just, I don't listen to really anything that I did back then. I don't care for it, you know. So that was the problem I ran into. It's just sort of a cultural thing there. But I think that has changed to some degree, because when I lived there was no East Nashville scene at all. That's totally happened after I left. So now you have all kinds of things going on there. And Nashville really is, the recording capital of the world, and not just for country music. I mean, the recording business is in Nashville. So it's totally different now. And I learned a lot in Nashville, so I'm not completely anti-Nashville, but I am anti-Music Row, and I'm 100% anti the country music industry, which I think is vile.